Now, there was one little interlude there I'll mention because maybe it's of interest. I had the very good fortune of working at a firm that had a sabbatical policy. And so as soon as I had completed my 7 years as a partner and became eligible for a sabbatical, we were allowed to take 6 months as a sabbatical. My son and I had been hiking in the White Mountains, and we fantasized about hiking the Appalachian Trail. And that seemed like about as big a challenge as I could imagine ever undertaking. And he and I read books about it, and so I took off 6 months from work and hiked the trail with him. We started in Maine, we wound up in Georgia. One of the best experiences of my life. I hiked through parts of the country very close to where you live and work. Beautiful country. And the reason I mention it is that I would urge anybody who can figure out a way to take sabbaticals to find a way to do it. This particular sabbatical gave me an opportunity for reflection, which led, I believe, to my transition from working in a big firm to now having a little boutique Boston Law Collaborative. But there was another very powerful lesson for me in the sabbatical and in the hike, wholly apart from the connection with my son, which I valued very much. I hope to have similar adventures with my 2 daughters at some point. And that lesson was that we have strength, each of us, that we're unaware of. Hiking the Appalachian Trail, for me, I'm not a particularly athletic person, really tested me. It tested my back, it tested my knees, it tested my mental focus and determination. It was often cold. We hiked through swarms of mosquitoes, black flies, mud, relentless rain, and yet he and I, my son and I, reinforcing each other's determination to see this through. We dug deep and we found resources of strength that we didn't know we had. And so when you come back from your sabbatical, when you come back from your hike or your pilgrimage or whatever it is that one does, come back with not just the mental realization of what you can do if you're determined, but it's in your body. It's now body knowledge. And so it's very powerful. So I came back after this sabbatical. I worked for a couple more years at Hill & Barlow, and then found the courage, and it took some courage, I'm somewhat risk averse, to set up this new practice at Boston Law Collaborative. And you asked, what am I passionate about? And I'm passionate about this practice. I'm also passionate about the community where I live, and I see those two as similar in certain respects. And so let me try to describe what I see as similar. At Boston Law Collaborative, we're trying to create not just a firm that does very high quality work, but we're trying to create a model of what it might be like to work in a place that feels as much like a community as it does a workplace. In other words, a place where people get to know each other, treat each other with respect, compassion, curiosity, and bring the same kind of non-judgmental awareness to each other that we try to bring to our cases. In other words, to walk the talk not only in the way we do the work, but in the way we create an environment supportive of that work. And this is an ongoing project. This is not something where you feel like, we finally got it. Any more than as a mediator or a collaborative lawyer, you reach a point where you feel like, okay, I now know how to do this. It's the beauty of the work, is that it's a horizon that always eludes us. Mastery will always be out there. It's something we strive for but never reach. And so creating a community in a workplace is a challenge for all the reasons that are perhaps obvious, but very much worth doing it seems to me, in the interest of Tikkun Olam, making the world a better place, creating workplaces where people feel like they're not only engaged in right livelihood, but in a feeling of connection and community that sustains us. So that's the work piece. The co-housing community is a similar kind of endeavor. It's an attempt to create a place where we live, where we raise our children, where we grow old together, where we feel that sense of connection and community. We are a community of 24 households that live on a piece of land that we bought together. We built structures there together. We were engaged for about half a dozen years in organizing the group and acquiring the land and hiring an architect and hiring a general contractor, doing the various things one has to do to build a community. And so it was a little bit like wandering in the desert those 6 years. We became a community even before we arrived at the promised land of this co-housing community, and it's turned out to be a wonderful place. Is it like Canaan? Does it flow with milk and honey? Yes, on its good days it does. Most days it does. It's a wonderful way to live, and I recommend it. My wife and I worried a little bit about whether it would feel like an encroachment on our privacy to live in such close proximity to people that we care about a lot. And it hasn't been that way. People are really respectful of each other's boundaries. And so in both my work life and my work and in my life at home and the work of creating a community at home, I feel like I'm going to leave behind models for other people to improve upon. And that is, I guess that's a good segue to something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. I'm 62 years old. So I've reached a point in life where one begins to think about legacy. At 62, you know that you're on the back nine of life. You know that you've at least passed the midpoint of your life, and so you're heading back to the clubhouse in the sky, so to speak. And what is it that we leave behind? In what way have we made the world a better place? And these models are a part of that for me. Part of it is also teaching and training, which I like very much. I teach a mediation course. I do trainings in mediation and sometimes in collaborative law as well. And that's a way of influencing and extending one's, passing on the benefits of our experience. I love doing that. The importance of legacy, it seems to me, has to do with the teachings of a book that I read very late in life. In college, people told me, oh, you should read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And I didn't. But I did read it as an adult. My wife bought it for me. And it has really changed a lot about the way I practice and the way I live. And the thesis of Frankl's book is that each of us as human beings has a deep yearning, not just for those primitive things that Freud wrote about, but for something that's even more fundamental, something we cling to even beyond food and shelter, reproduction, and so forth. And that is for our lives to have meaning. That's different for different people. But he saw that in the concentration camps, where he developed, as a prisoner in concentration camps, this theory that he called logotherapy, which is to use psychotherapy as a way of helping people find meaning in their lives. And so I look at not only my own life to see what are those sources of meaning, I also look at it in my practice.